What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roots and Streams podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Yamas. So if you can see this, usually whether I have somebody or not. And today it is just me. And I wanted to take some time to kind of, not finesse, but like hone in on the theme of this podcast a little bit. And this was not even like an idea until like a couple hours ago. I knew I was going to do it by myself. Or at least I was pretty sure. I reached out to my tribe who was not available, and I know we've been meaning to book that for some time. And actually, I just want to take a moment to thank everybody who has been watching or listening to the podcast lately. I know there's like a core, like 20 of you maybe, that just are like listening to every single one, which is amazing. I think that's great, and I really appreciate it. And yeah, if it's serving you and you think it may help someone else, by all means share. I know usually what I share is pretty personal. But I also know that, it can end up in anyone's ears, and I am just, I'll deal with it. But yeah, so just thank you for everybody that's been participating. I am working on being a little bit more active on social media. I've been sharing songs, a little bit of music that, it's kind of my thing. I know with groups, usually I tend to just share because I know music for a little bit for me was, especially as I just found myself wanting to be more rooted in, I would say more Christian things. That sounds like a loaded title, or maybe just like too goody two shoe. But I guess kind of trying to unplug myself from certain things is probably more so what I was trying to do, from certain messages, and that I don't really, and I probably haven't really connected to for some time, but it's just, I love music and I love, the beats of it, the creativity. I've worked on, a little bit music myself. And so, so I've been sharing some songs that have been good for me. And like, I know sometimes, at least in the beginning, I'm like, man, but Christian music's kind of boring. It's not that good. But there's some good stuff. And I've fortunately found some really good replacements for some of the music I was listening to. So I'm just trying to share more of that on social media. You may have been noticing, I probably have done it like 3 days in a row now. And I wanted to take today to, like I mentioned just a few hours ago, to kind of hone in, kind of focus on what this podcast is about, the format a little bit. I'm not going to change everything. But I actually found somebody that I am truly enjoying. Her name is Elizabeth Oldfield. She's this English woman who works for a religious think tank. And I was like, whoa, what is that? I don't know. I may look into a job or in that field in the near future, because that just sounds really interesting. And I would thoroughly enjoy just sitting around thinking and, diving into religious questions. That sounds like a whole lot of fun for me. But no, so she has a podcast called The Sacred. And I've enjoyed a few episodes, and I kind of just liked her format of like, so her big thing is like, what is sacred to you, right? And so she talks to people that are very different from her, that are very different from, the quote unquote Christian. And I don't think she necessarily intentionally goes after people that are super different from her, but she definitely welcomes it and wants to try to challenge herself and listeners to listen to people that are like an LGBTQ priest, somebody who's like on the conservative side, someone who's on the liberal side, Muslims, Hindu people, just different religions. And she just thinks it's so important to bring on people and talk about what's sacred to them, so that we can, I think part of her mission is to hear other people and just to realize that we are all human. We all have things we can connect on, even though it seems like we're so different. So that's her podcast. I'm enjoying it. And I actually been reading her book as well. Um, and it just made me feel like, okay, with this theme of roots and streams, I don't just want it to be the title and then just always wonder like what is that connected to? And it's like, well, go and listen to, the episode where I explain it all. And you can, if you want more in-depth explanation about how it's based off of Psalms 1 and the writings of how when we are like we're like a tree and we should root ourselves near streams of living water, and we should be bearing good fruit, and we will bear good fruit all the time if we do that. And there are symbols for all of those things, for the streams of water being the direction and word of God, and then so like, and how he'll guide us in his wisdom. But I wanted to take that theme and use that for upcoming guests to say, I've been going back and forth with ChatGPT. It's the closest thing I have to an assistant and a think partner right now. So bear with me. I'm not trying to cheat on this test or anything. But something along the lines, I'm still teasing it out. It's very new. I just said like in the last couple hours, because I was sitting on what should I talk about, and nothing was really sticking. But this one really seemed like, I can kind of use this episode to kind of help guide and finesse and fizzle out like this route I want to go, starting with myself. So the question that I'll probably be asking all of my guests is going to be something along the lines of, what has been your stream? What is the source that has kept you steady and growing through life's challenges? I don't know if that's going to be the question. So I have variations, like I said, working with ChatGPT, my AI assistant, and if anyone who's out there that uses it as well, it is very helpful. And if you haven't, I highly suggest it. It can save some brain energy to maybe spend it with your children, your significant other. And no, but really, it does help. It helps to save some mental energy. But not don't overdo it though. But who am I to tell you what to do? Do what you need. You'll figure it out. So something along those lines. Here are some other renditions. What has kept you rooted and growing, even when life felt uncertain? In tough seasons, what has been your stream, the thing that nourishes and sustains you? When I hear this question and renditions of this question, I like where this is going. Something, let's see, actually, before I jump off, let me look at something a little bit more concise. What's your stream, the source that keeps you grounded? What's your steady source of strength and growth? So I like stream. So what's your stream? Right? Or what's one of your streams? And I think this is where I'm going to be leading guests. Like, just to talk about one of your streams that you've been trying to root yourself, or you keep rooted, and helps you to grow and nourishes you even in challenging times. So I'm asking myself that question first here in this episode. And so I'm grateful that I had this episode to do this, because I felt like some of the last ones, and probably why I'm so appreciative to people that just watch regardless if I have everything figured out or not, is like, not that they were getting too long, but I felt like maybe the start was a little too slow, because I didn't have a guiding question like this. And I love just talking to people and hearing about their story at length. Like and I do talk to people for hours. But I think on this podcast and these episodes, I know there is a threshold, right? There's like only so much that people are going to listen to, and people want to get to like some of the highlights that they see in the highlight reels that I make. And probably like many other podcasts and videos, a lot of the highlights come from the end, because that's like when things really start to get good. So I wanted to try to, in a way where I wasn't forcing it and not overlooking people's kind of introduction and talking about like why like they are who they are and like what makes them tick. I want to start with some of these with a question like this. And I am not fully prepared. I have not thought this out entirely. Like I said, this is something new. I think I can answer this. So I'm kind of interviewing myself here. And I appreciate the patience and grace for for me thinking this out. So let me talk about some of my streams and things that I've been rooted in and that have kept me nourished, especially through challenging times. And I think only in my probably last recent 5 to 10 years, I can really think of things that I can point to that were helpful during challenging times. I think before that, it was just challenging times are challenging and let's just try to make them better. And it wasn't really like I was rooted in something. And I think there's a big difference when you're rooted in something and you have hope in something, and even when something's not kind of uh, happening the way you want it to, and it's inevitable. Like life has its ups and downs. That when you don't have those things, it can seem pretty bleak, and it seems like there's going to be no helping here. If I survive it, then great. And maybe I need to just find an exit because this is not going to change at all. And as devastating as that can sound, I mean, there's been times where, yeah, like things that come into mind about like exits because life gets hard. Like I'm talking about like divorce, even I hate to say it, is even suicide, or maybe, and if it's not that morbid, then even just like, why am I here? Or do I need to be here? And I think some of those are the early thoughts of it probably. Fortunately, I've never dealt with that, to an extent where I'm actually, have a plan or anything. But there are times where, like depression can hit and it's like, man, like things are just, and you can't see like it getting better. And I promise I'm going to mention some of my streams. I just want to mention, like, I think that's why it's so important to have something that can continue to nourish you. And I hope that this podcast, can help, think some of those things. I don't have all the answers. I'm not even that wise of a person. I can just share my experience, and hopefully people can help me out. Drop some things in the comments. So I know that was really dark, but I think it's really true, and more of us, more often than not, end up in those dark places and end up in those questions and end up in those wonderings, with very little help and not having circles or people that we're comfortable talking to about it, or having something that we can turn to that is not going to take us deeper down the hole. So when I think of this idea of streams and what we're rooted, I really want to focus in on this because I think hearing guests share, through their ups and downs of things that they're rooted in right now, or they're even, I would say, trying to be rooted in, right? Things that they're trying to, in their self, they're trying to move towards, they're trying to learn more about, they're trying to do something on the daily that is moving them closer to that stream, closer to being nourished, and trying to really like grow their roots out. So I just want to focus in on that, a little bit more from here on out is that idea. So for myself, I think I'm avoiding the question. So what's your stream, or what's one of your streams? The source that keeps you grounded, the source that keeps you nourished and bearing fruit, even through challenging times. Matthew Yamas, that is me. And I have a list here, not of things I want to say, but just things to talk on. So I'm going to start like something very simple from that really deep start is like physically. So for me, physically, like something that has been a stream for me, and I've had ups and downs with it, of like whether I'm spending the right time with it, is basketball. Basketball in the sense that playing basketball. That has been something, and so I think so for basketball for me, is a way that I can get an exercise, getting camaraderie, some friendship, just fun, and kind of just unplug a little bit in a healthy way, in a way that is giving back, because it's exercising my body. It's helping me to stay in shape so I can carry my kids. I can run around with them so I can, have enough energy and physical ability to cook for my family, carry things, keeps me in shape and keeps me healthy. So that is like something very practical, a very, very practical stream I'm starting with, is having some kind of like physical outlet. I don't lift weights as much as I used to. I do want to get started back on that. I actually experienced a basketball injury a few years ago that put a pause on lifting weights, and I just haven't gotten back to it. But I have been regularly playing basketball with the group of guys at LA Fitness. If you know me, I've probably invited you or told you about it. And if you like playing basketball, where I'm grateful, I am truly grateful for this group of men, group of guys that we show up at like 5:30 in the morning and play basketball. There's a lot of jokes, even, group chat that with more messages that I could keep up with, because it's just a constant, I think, competitiveness and joking. And sometimes, we gotta keep that in control, because, we don't want to let it get to the point where, people don't want to show up anymore, or we're just fighting and things like that. But so this is a stream. So just finding like, and I, now to think about it, like just have different like groups of people and activities that help me in these different areas, because there's so many, areas in our life that kind of complete and round us, that we're a part of. And I think during when we first had our baby Geo, it was really hard. I probably spent like a month or two away. But these guys would ask about me or check in on me, to see like if I'm showing up. So that was encouraging. I think having a group helped that I'm playing basketball with, and they're regularly doing it. If I was just like going to play basketball by myself at the park, I probably would have dropped it and just lost the habit. But I think having that group of guys that are playing, that I know I can reconnect with, has been helpful. So that is a very practical, very easy stream for me to share. I'll go. I have different ones, like spiritual. And you know what? This is something I want to do, and it's just hard to find some time, because at this point I'm kind of like a stay-at-home dad. I'm not kind of. That is the situation right now. So between Geo, picking up the kids, the cooking, and, I'm not super busy all day, but that's just to be on social media, interacting. It could take more time than it should. But I mentioned that. So I have these different ones, and I wish I would have reached out and asked, maybe questions to see like what you wanted to hear about. But I didn't, and maybe nobody would have responded anyways. But I am going to pick, I'll pick spiritual. I started with physical. Let's go spiritual. Let's go completely other way and just make it, kind of deep. So spiritually, what is one of the streams? So as you may know, I am, working on or attempting to be a follower, of Jesus Christ, a Christian, and I know some of these terms and names are very loaded and maybe can trigger certain things. So if they have, please just stick with me, because I know for me, it's been difficult just to navigate. But spiritually, for me, what has been keeping me grounded, I think what comes to me is a moment or a period when I recently, quit my job. My Nina passed away. We just had my fourth child, and we have another child who's 2 years old. So, and then my other older children. So it was just a lot that was happening. And, I think spiritually, so my faith definitely, I think, is like a foundation, and there's so much there that I don't even want to talk about like all of it, because I know you just don't want to hear me. You're probably just not tuning in to talk for me to talk like everything about like Christianity, but I think it's a good base, and it allows me to have. I was working on my relationship with God. I think so. If I can kind of get deep, but also keep it simple, spiritually, it's been working on my relationship with God. And when I can be dedicated enough and, what's the word I'm looking for? Just intentional enough, doing things to work on myself that help me to see God more as this good father and the way he sees me. And so that has been something that I've been working on, through different books and through reading the Bible, connecting with groups. So spiritually, I think one of the main streams though has been kind of this journey of seeking out like, why am I not maybe hearing from God at times, and how can I kind of tune into that, or being more more conscious of when that happens, and then in times where it gets difficult, like being sure to plug into that. So let me give you an example. So I'll go back to the example I was talking about. So when times were difficult, right, I noticed that like music, gospel music, or just music that I found that is Christian, that the message is surrounded around, biblical things and Christian things and things that I find have been very true to my life, have been life-giving and wisdom, and loving and gracious. And so in these songs, right? So I listen to music a lot, whether we're in the car, somebody's picking a song, or just discovering artists by myself. And I usually find like I just feel really good when I'm listening to good music. And so when I was in that tough time, I found an album that I kind of revisited, because the first time I listened to it, I wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't really feeling it. So it's by Doe, D-O-E. Yeah, I said that right. D-O-E, Doe. And she's this artist who used to perform with Transformation Church worship. And it's just something about that album that was very therapeutic for me. It allowed me to just kind of take a seat, relax. It was very like relaxing music, very, I don't know, she just talks about how like her connection with God has been in a very personal way, not a very religious way, but a very personal way of like her ups and downs and like inviting you to like be known, and that like things are going to get better, but not in a cheesy way, in a way that felt very real and just encouraging. And so this album was something that I played for maybe weeks. And I think before that, when I was kind of just in the challenge, in the strife, in the depression of that time, I was like, man, okay, how do I shake out of this, right? And I'm going to therapy, and I'm talking to different groups, but I need something like more sustained, like, because I can't always be talking to somebody. And I think in past times, I probably would have just kind of been a little miserable, like in between each group talk or therapy session or basketball session. But I was reminded, like, wait, no, like music. And that is something very recent that I am trying to plug into. And it sometimes it could sound overly practical, because I know it's spiritual. Like I'm talking something spiritual, but it's like overly practical, like just to play a specific song or to play music or to sing even. But that is a stream that I am finding is very nourishing for me. and that album in particular. And so I was very grateful for the time that I spent finding certain artists and finding certain songs, because just searching randomly through YouTube music and setting, you can set up like a radio and then it plays like a song that thinks like fits the algorithm of the first song that you played. A lot of music that I don't really enjoy, that just, I don't know, hasn't clicked with me yet. But finding one here and there in the Christian realm and then saving it. And so I was very grateful that I spent probably the last couple of years doing that, because when these moments come and I remember, and I'm good about plugging into some music to help carry me through those moments, because the messages in these songs and the melodies that just connect with me, with my emotions, it just really is sometimes exactly what I need. So I'm grateful that kind of like had that preparation and had to, and like move myself towards that stream. So let me try to use the metaphor here. So like kind of move myself and rooted, right? And like, I'm just thinking of like roots in the ground, like looking for and moving towards this stream and staying near it. But what's the use if we're near the stream, but our roots don't absorb the water? So I found myself doing that often, is that I had this music, and I would listen to it when everything was good. But then when things got bad, I would just like act like I had nothing. But no, this time I was like, no, I think I need to go back to this album. And so I did. And I think it's called, so it's Doe, Doe, Heart of a Human. And to all my guys out there, I know if you listen to it, maybe a handful of you will be like, nah, man, this is so feminine. This is so, emotional or whatever it is. But all I can do is be myself. And be honest, is that album definitely served a purpose for me. And it got me through a rough patch, and I still enjoy those songs and share them. So music. So I know I said spiritual, but I think, it's really hard to talk about like one thing. And I know I've heard this topic now a couple of times about how like we have these different categories and like we try to keep everything boxed. Like, so like physical, spiritual, political, cultural. And there's just like a lot of overlap, and I'm seeing more of how like it's probably doesn't make too much sense to have everything so separated into those different boxes. And it may be messy, but kind of being okay with that mess. And I'm going to stick. So like music for me, has helped me spiritually, and the music I'm listening to, the music that's rooted is in Christianity, and the affirmative words, affirmative messages about who we are and what this experience is about, and how it is a beautiful one, and how, we can get lost, but God helps us to get back on track. So that's another stream. I'm thinking, let me go to another one. So as a husband, so Matt, what's a stream? What's one of your streams that you've been rooted in, lately as a husband? And, this one's probably like everything on here that I mentioned. It's a little complicated. Let me try to sum this one up. I was it last episode? Yeah, last episode I talked about, well, my wife was on here and we talked about marriage therapy, and that is one of the streams, or the things that were shared from there, is one of the streams that I think was helping us to visit. And I think this is it. I think this is the stream, and how you approach this stream can be either life-giving or life, hurting. And that is moving towards difficult conversations, difficult topics that are within my marriage, that are for me as a husband. And I think for some time I just thought that, okay, if I endure, then, the issues will just go away, and, we're just going to become better people, and it's just endure. I think there's some truth to that. I think being patient and giving people grace, right, is a part of that. But I also have recently learned that moving towards the discomfort is can be an incredibly um, nourishing stream. That sounds weird, but I think done with counsel. So maybe here maybe the stream. I'm trying to find this stream here. So like I don't know if it's like counsel. Maybe that's what it is, and like having a mediator. Um, I think that's a part of it. So if you are moving towards difficult things, um, at times we can be tricked into thinking like that is going to take away life. That is going to make things difficult. Um, but I have found recently that moving towards difficult conversations with my wife, moving towards um, sometimes even confrontation or just things that we're not seeing eye to eye on, the more I spend time away from it and acting like everything's okay, I don't feel like I'm linked into the stream that's nourishing and giving me life. Yes, I have hope that things are going to get better, but I think I'm kind of running away from this stream. Like this stream is coming fast. This is a very maybe this way of thinking of it is like this is a very the current is really fast and aggressive in this stream of moving towards confrontation. But I can assure you that doing so with strong enough roots, and the roots I'm talking about sometimes can be with other people, maybe to link in with you in these difficult conversations. It can be so rewarding. And so that is definitely a stream that, when times have been difficult lately, whether it's the mediator of our marriage counseling or friends from church or just friends outside of church, and or even for me to talk with like groups about issues that are going on in my marriage, that has been incredibly helpful this season, and helped me to grow, continue to I think the more I do that, the more I see that, okay, when times get difficult again, I kind of know I need to kind of press in a little bit and do it in a way that is rooted in patience, kindness, just being vulnerable, hearing, right, really listening, validating. And those are things that are incredibly difficult to learn. It just feels so counter to yourself when you hear things that are being like pointed at you and blamed. It's just it feels so unnatural. It feels to go the opposite way or just to hear somebody out. But I have found it has made my marriage better, even in difficult times, is when I don't run away from those difficult conversations and handle them with care in a way where it's not necessarily forgetting about myself or not saying anything or, stonewalling and just, silent treatment. And this requires sometimes, and I don't want to leave this out, sometimes it requires a pause. And so I'll say in this stream, there's like multiple things, and I don't know if this is making any sense. Maybe I'm trying too hard with the metaphor, but so in the stream of like going towards difficult conversations and topics, I don't know, just kind of just certain things are being pointed out that are in this that kind of need to be present in order for these waters to be life-giving. And that's one, like having counsel, having someone that you're either talking to on the side and that you can trust and is very wise, or someone that's mediating, and that you're trying to listen and you're doing your best to not retaliate, to not be in it to just prove yourself right. And going into that, is even as much as you prepare yourself, it can be very difficult I know it can for me. And I think third is that this is kind of just something I was thinking about recently. In a recent disagreement of sorts with Sandra, was about the importance of taking a pause. And this is something that maybe has to be set as like a ground rule ahead of time, like a boundary. Because if you just do it, it's going to seem like you're ignoring your spouse or just like don't want to talk about it or like they're not important. But if like they're sharing and something that you can do and keep listening and asking questions if you can, if you can't just let them keep talking, and if your like brain is like so hot and you're getting angry and you want to defend yourself and you want to justify and all those things, my recommendation is to just pause. Just say, you know what? I can't think straight right now. I can't think clearly. This topic is very sensitive for me. I'm doing my best to hear you without judgment. But I just need to pause. Like, can we just pause? And I think taking that pause, and sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's a day and a half, a day or two, and just let each of you just kind of like sit on it. It's so important, especially if you don't do this often. And most of the time you're just fighting. You have to allow your time for your brain and yourself to kind of readjust and get used to this new stance. So I think for me as a husband, that stream would be is just approaching difficult situations, approaching difficult topics and arguments with those things in mind. I feel like this is a very big one. But the problem is I'm going to keep this one short. Another stream that's been helpful for me is questioning. And that's like questioning things in a way, as I talked like with Eric a couple episodes ago, not questioning in a way where I'm trying to doubt. And sometimes there's doubt in there, but I'm not trying to like prove it wrong. But especially like questions in the Bible. And that is it sounds negative, but it's been life-giving to me. Because as I search and I ask questions and I dig and I find revelation, it can be very life-giving to me. It can be very like, oh, okay, that's relatable, or okay, that's how it's seen. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Just like the poetry sometimes of the Bible. Once I figure out what something means, I can kind of take the meaning and apply it to my life, or it can just speak something very beautiful to me. That is very like life-giving. And then, when the time's appropriate or I read other parts of the Bible, it kind of connects to that. I know, especially for sure, like I'll ask these questions and it seems kind of all negative or seems like I'm getting nowhere, or just asking questions or just questioning things. And like, it's frustrating to other people to hear me like question things, especially when I'm in church groups. At least that's what it feels like. I don't know if people actually get frustrated by me. I will say though, that questioning, and maybe a better way to put it is just like the seeking for understanding, the seeking for knowledge, for seeking for wanting to hear better what I'm hearing, right? To really try to listen with ears that are listening and see with eyes that are seeing. And not just be like, okay, just reading something in the Bible. Okay, I get that. And not really taking the words for granted and really digging in. And that has been paid off for me as a father, I would say. It's starting to as a husband, but more so for me as a father, because I know with my kids, they go to church with us. And there's times where I hear them having like my son and my daughter having conversations. And I remember them when they were like painting this wall here. And they're talking about something about church. And I think my son was asking my daughter about like, why are you doing that way? Or why do you have to read the Bible? Cause she's like really trying to, work on her own routines and find her streams that are giving her life. And sometimes it's like we do it out of like habit, and we have to do it out of like we're forcing ourselves and obligating ourselves to read the Bible and to pray. I think there's something good behind like having rituals, because it allows us to move, to keep near those streams when we don't feel like it, or we're not feeling so great. But I think sometimes rituals can they can kind of take us in the opposite direction, or they can really disconnect us from the purpose of things. And I think that's what he was questioning and they were talking about. But I remember, like, from as much as I question and it seems like I'm going in the opposite direction so much in my faith, when I hear other people kind of questioning their faith or wondering why they're doing things, or like just really trying to figure out like what is all this about, like what is the human experience, and like what is like my purpose here, and who is Jesus, and like why did he come, and just all, like they have their own questioning and their own faith, and they're starting to kind of lose it. That's where I feel myself kind of pick up. And since I've like dug and asked a lot of the questions my kids are kind of running into, it kind of like picks my spirit up. It picks up my confidence. It picks up my faith and allows me to speak life into my kids. And they're just like, kind of like get quiet sometimes, like, whoa, okay, I didn't think about it like that. And it's like, I can take certain situations, and because they're getting a little older, and speak life into them and help to give them confidence. And in situations where I didn't have that. So those questions, they help me to be, I think, more secure. I feel like the questions never stop, and I've been burdened with that, and I'm okay with that. But those questions, and then taking those questions to the Bible, to people that are scholars or videos, not just reading the Bible by itself, I think that is kind of I wouldn't say dangerous thing, but it's not something I would recommend. It's just, I think definitely the Bible has things where you can just read. And it's like, oh, that sounds great. That really, spoke to me. However, I think it's something that very much so is very helpful with a guide, whether it's a guide from videos or courses or, notes or somebody, an actual person, or ChatGPT. It's super helpful to get a better idea of like what you're reading, what it meant to the people who wrote it, what it meant to the people, that it was passed on to. And so like diving into all that has been a super big stream for me lately. I would say another stream for me has been to be like vulnerable with myself, like getting to know myself and like saying, and being okay. I think for some time I would like I think the comparison syndrome kind of keeps us from accepting ourselves and thinking that we're going to evolve or become this person that we can finally accept and that we are okay with. I think kind of, and so this is maybe links back to my relationship with God, is that like reading things and writing down, like just, and sharing has been a big part of this, of like knowing myself, talking about stories and habits and lessons, on camera, recorded, sharing with people, I think has rooted me in saying, this is who I am. This is maybe not who I'm going to be in the future or the best version of me, but this is just who I am. And that stream has allowed me to work on my relationship with God, because I feel like there's something to being okay with who you are, or just sharing who you are and where you're at. And then it allows God to meet us where we are. I don't know how much like sense that makes. But moving more towards like knowing who I am and sharing who I am, and in a way where little by little, just without or with sometimes shame, has been very helpful for me. Um, what else? I think relational, just having community. So at Freedom Church, been having like life groups, and I've met people that are super life giving to me and have been life giving to my children, and just relationships that are built there that, I don't know, there's something beautiful to meeting people like in a church that are just like open and want to connect and want community. That can, it's like, it like, it, it does this like exponential, like speed relationship, like at least the trust and the vulnerability part, because we're in a place where we're being vulnerable. We're sharing things that we probably haven't shared with people that have been with us like our whole life. But when we do that, it just makes our connections so much stronger. And I think those relationships have definitely been a stream that my roots have been looking for. And I wanted like more of that, even though like, I probably had like one or a couple of people in my life. But now finding that through church friends, that will get vulnerable with me. We'll talk about, all the topics. I don't want to put anyone's business out there, but honestly, all the topics that I've been sharing here, whether it's about, sex and disappointment and marriage and, just things you've done wrong, things you're working on, and, fighting with your spouse. I think because those are the only ones that I can really find nourishment from, are the ones that are going to be honest and real, because then it allows me to be honest and real. If not, then I feel like we're all just faking it. And I don't find myself feeling very nourished from relationships like that. But the ones I've found lately, through my Transformation Church online group and through my in-person Freedom Church group of friends and life groups, have been very life-giving to me. And I'm glad that my roots have found that stream of friends and family. And I said I wouldn't keep it too long, so we're getting about 50 minutes. So I want to do more of this, of just talking about things that we're rooted in. Things talk about, even if it's like things that we see that we want, and like, or maybe that we're trying to be rooted in, and that like we see like, man, there's that stream of like, maybe, I don't know, like, I know for me, it was like working on my music, like the songs that I'm finding, and I want to find better music because I want like to, like, you see those streams or streams that you feel nearby, or ones that are in the past. So just talk about these things that we're connected to that are life-giving, so that, we can share with other people. That's what I'm going to try to focus on. And I'm sure that will take us in so many different, it'll just split into so many different areas and sharing. And I want to do more of this with guests to come. So thanks for listening, everybody. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the streams that are giving me life, some of the things that I'm rooted in, that I'm trying to be more rooted in, and remember and remind myself in times of challenging seasons that I am rooted in them and that I've spent time with them, because at times it can be difficult even to remember, like, man, the water that I'm connected to, because when life gets difficult, it feels like everything is just like turned off and I'm by myself. But the more and more I can stay near those things that are helping me get through difficult times, the more I can remember to just like lean on those things. So until next time, everybody, I really appreciate you tuning in, listening. I should have a guest on for next week. And we'll be working from this theme, from these core questions. So until next time, take care, everybody. Peace.